Welcome back to the River Bottom Radio Show. Tonight, I've got a special guest for you. I've got Mr. Scary, Steve Ward. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Hey, I got to ask you first things first. How did you come up with Mr. Scary?
Well, I played in a band about a decade ago called Haunted, and of course there was confusion because there was The Haunted, and then there was a group, I think it was in Switzerland or whatever, that started using Haunted as well. We had registered that name back in 2008 or 2009, but when it came time to send them the cease and desist, the legality of it all, there's really no international copyright. So, I had to think, well, am I going to go forward with Haunted or have confusion or just come up with something different, And so when Haunted split back in 2010, I was a full group, and then as I decided to move forward, I did it as my solo career. So Mr. Scary is my stage name, and then this is my solo career.
Okay. So was there some kind of inspiration behind what started as Haunted and became Mr. Scary?
Yeah, I own a really big building. In 1913, in the Missouri Register, it was the largest department store on this side of the Mississippi River. When you have a building that old with that much history, there's creeks and there's this and there's that, and so I bought it to put a coin store in the front of the thing, and then I was gonna, have an apartment in the back, and I turned out never opening the coin store, so it just turned into a huge house, 5 or 6 times larger than anyone else would possibly have. And, when you live in a place like that, it's, like in 1929, it was a bank, so there's a full-size vault inside there. And,
oh, wow.
So, you live in creepy places, you get creepy thoughts in the middle of the night, and then before you know it, it can be fun.
Yeah, you kind of wake up one morning and go, hey, I'm Mr. Scary.
Right.
Yeah. That's really cool. So with this group, you have assembled fantastic talent to surround yourself with. Tell us some about who you've got with you.
Yeah, I have Derek Shipp from Shaman's Harvest. In my opinion, he's probably one of the best guitar players on the planet right now. He produces the CD, and we work in the studio for just about a year now, putting this thing together. And then Nevada Romo, guitarist for Texas Hippie Coalition. His brother, Nevada Romo, also from Texas Hippie Coalition. Chord pull, threw some solos on it, and from Texas Hippie Coalition. And then Brandon Wheeler, which I met with Texas Hippie Coalition actually on tour. He's from Granny Four Barrel.
Okay. Yeah, and those guys our listeners are quite familiar with, at least their music. For
Excellent.
Sure.
Excellent. Yeah. They're all tremendously nice people. Above all, I know lots of other musicians and, this and that or whatever. Some of them, you really want to do something like this, because they're a little bit jagged around the edges or whatever. This group of people was the nicest people you could ever expect to meet. So any of your listeners, if y'all ever get out and you can see some of these guys and go talk to them, you'll realize they're just super nice guys. And they're talented.
Yeah, and that's what I've discovered with them is they're super friendly, and you're absolutely right. They're extremely talented. And when they do a project like this, they're 100% in. They're in for the haul of it. So
yes, well, Nevada and Rado, they came from a band called Anti-Mortem that was split, I don't know how many years ago, but they split up. And so now they're reviving that. So Anti-Mortem is coming back around. And collectively, Mr. Scary and a couple other people that I can't name until they publicly announce it, in Nevada, starting a record company that will deal with the Mr. Scary, the Anti-Mortem, and these other groups that we're dealing with. So that's exciting.
That really is. That's fantastic. That's really, for you to be able to have that connection with all these guys and be able to do things like that is that's incredible. Yeah, and I'm excited because my kids have a connection to Nevada, so that's a special thing. So,
yeah. In fact, I think I saw the picture of you and Nevada, or your son and Nevada together. Is that on your Facebook page?
Yeah, sure is. It sure is.
That's a great picture.
Yeah, I love the guys. I mean, they've done a lot with my kids, and especially him. And in fact, I'll see him this next week sometimes. So that's
awesome.
Yeah, and you know, you'll be. I think you said that you'll be in Oklahoma City for the February 9th Anti-Mortem show.
Yeah, I'm trying to work it out. Now, one more person worth mentioning is Chris Bear Wilburn, which was the tour manager for Texas Hippie for all those years.
Mm-hmm.
He is also the Mr. Scary tour manager as well. So.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, you've got good people.
Yeah, so it's all tied together, and then even further than that, there's Malcolm Springer, which is a very well-known producer. He did the soundtracks for Spider-Man. He did it for Scream 3 and Too Fast and Too Furious, and then he did, I can't remember the name, Candlebox, and one other band. I can't remember the name off. Oh, he did Collective Soul. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And so he'll be the last person to get it. Once we're all done, he'll be the last person to get it to mix. You know, and then we're also in talks with Kane Turco, who him and his dad did all the Five Finger Death Punch albums. In This Moment, Ozzy Osbourne, Disturbed, and so the Turcos will be the last people to have the CD before it actually releases, and they'll master it with the very specific. We like the sound of Five Finger Death Punch and the way that that's been mastered. We want ours to be in that very same category.
Right.
So front to back, everybody involved, you know, is top notch, and you know, we've really taken the time to do it right.
Yeah, you've surrounded yourself with absolute professionals, and that's absolutely. You know, I've loved seeing the updates on Facebook about what you got going on, and you got a video shoot going on.
Yeah, we do. We've actually been shooting quite a bit. Derek and we shot on December the 17th, and then one more person worth mentioning that sings on the CD is Erica Shepard. She's Miss New York from the Miss USA contest. So,
right. Yeah.
So in between her Miss New York stuff, you know, she's going to be shooting videos, and you know, we'll be working together to get it all done.
Yeah, and she's got a really beautiful voice. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all works out. And so, what's it like to shoot a video, you know, of this type? Because you've got a lot of work that goes into it.
Well, with everybody being scattered around everywhere, we have to kind of collectively do it and have an idea. And then, like, for instance, Texas Hippie Coalition, they just got off the tour. So Rado, you know, he got some video eyes out on tour of them doing some stuff, him and Nevada and Cord, you know. And so then me and Derek, Derek lives 10 minutes from me, you know, so we're together 5 days a week for the most part. And so right now we're just gathering all this great footage, and then I'll come to Oklahoma City on the 9th, knock on wood that is, and we'll shoot some more stuff. And if Erica can come, then we'll shoot hers there with us. If not, I'll travel to New York to get it there with him. So it's a little bit more difficult than a lot of other bands because everyone is so spread out, but they all have, you know, they'll have full-time careers and big careers, you know, so to have the talented people, you have to travel sometimes, and that's what I'm willing to do.
Right, and that's, you know, and I've watched, because like I said, this has been something I've been watching since we became friends on Facebook, and followed how you've been, you know, kind of evolving the process as it goes, you know.
Well, I tell you where it started. Ozzy had that Moonstock in Carterville, Illinois, where he was going to play Bark at the Moon during the eclipse. Well, that was a 4-day festival. So, you know, I went down. I spent 4 days backstage with Theory of a Dead Man and Five Finger Death Punch and All That Remains and Hailstorm and Pop Evil and Texas Hippie Coalition and all that. So that kind of, you know, I hadn't done music in a long time at that point. And so being with everybody again and seeing a lot of old friends back there, it was just kind of like, hey, I really miss it. So I thought long and hard, do I want to go back and commit, you know, because that's a big commitment. You know, a lot of bands will go in and put a CD together in 6 months, which is fine. This one's going on a year and a half. But I expect it to be the very best, and everybody else does too. So, like,
Right.
you know, Derek from Shaman's Harvest, he's like, these are the best solos I've ever done anywhere. And, boy, when y'all hear the solos, you're going to agree.
Yeah,
You know, and I think...
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing it. I mean, you've teased some here and there, and and with the talent you've got, like you said, I mean, I'm chomping at the bit, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm thrilled, and I really can't wait to release it. It's kind of like having the big present you're ready to give out. You know, we've worked so hard, Derek and I, and you know, behind the scenes, and then Rado and Nevada, you know, they were in L.A. working on the Texas Hippie Coalition CD in the daytime or whatever, and then they have off time, and so we'd be, you know, trying to get some stuff done at night as well. And so they were working particularly hard. You know, Nevada being at that point, he was, you know, every day it was all about Mr. Scary trying to get it accomplished and try to get things done. And if it hadn't been for him, we, you know, a lot of those solos we would not have gotten, or we would have got them later. And so
Right.
Kudos to him for being so committed to this project. And, you know, and Rado, he's super committed as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, because all the guys you put and that you've named off are all workaholics. That's, you know, they live to do that, and that's
they sure do.
I'm like I said, I've been really impressed with the group you've put together and how you've been evolving the project, and I don't know, evolving is not really the word I want to use for it. It's you've built it and just kept, you know, adding to it, and you're a musical perfectionist almost, because you want to make sure that what you put out there with this group of guys is top notch, and I respect that.
Well, I appreciate it. I think evolve was probably the right word, because initially, you know, when I wrote a lot of these songs on my sofa, you know, a year and a half ago, you know, in my mind they were going to sound like this when they were done, you know, but a lot of wisdom comes when you have a lot of professionals and you know that they're brilliant in their own right. So, you know, I wrote the song and I said, well, this is my parts, you know, and so go add to it. Feel free to take away anything from mine that you want and add whatever you feel is best. So everybody had that creative opportunity, you know, to take out a Derek's, you know, Nevada could have taken out a Derek solo and said, hey, this is more fitting or whatever, and it was completely okay. And the wisdom of that is these guys are artists. And if you give them a blank sheet of paper and a pen and say, do your thing, they're going to come out with something brilliant. And that's what's happened. And that's why they all say this is the best work I've ever done, because there was no restriction whatsoever. And that's how these videos will be too. You know, everything that we do collectively, it's going to be, I've taken it this far. Why don't you take it further than I did? You know, and then we'll hash it all back and forth. And then, you know, again, Malcolm Springer, when he gets it, he's heard bits and pieces of it. You know, initially there was already a Mr. Scary CD, and Malcolm came to town. He picked it up. I think he wrecked his car that same day, and then he had to go to Washington State for a month. Well, he said he wouldn't have time to mess with it till he got back, because he was already under contract to do that. And by the time he got back, me and Derek is like, wow, you know, we have so much better stuff than what we gave him. Why don't we just tell him to sit on that? We're going to complete a couple more songs. Then we did, and we're like, well, hold on here. Why don't we just start from scratch? And that's what we did. We started from scratch, and then we wrote and produced 20 songs, and we've narrowed it down to 11. You know, the other ones are great songs, but we want even better than great. We want it to be, you know, there's 10 legendary albums. There's Hysteria, there's Guns N' Roses, and, you know, stuff like that.
Right.
We want this to be the 11th album that is the most amazing, that sits in everyone's CD player for 20 years from now. They'll still know what it is, just like I know what Hysteria is, and Back in Black, and, you know, some of these other great albums, you know. And
Absolutely.
so we're taking the time and involving all the right people so that when this thing comes out, it's exactly what we're looking for. And we believe it's going to be an overwhelming experience for anyone who hears it all at one time. Like
right.
when Malcolm hears this, he is going to fall out of his chair, probably.
Yeah, so this brings me to a point that I talk about with other artists, and because you hear some guys always say, rock is dead, or something to that effect. What do you think about that? I mean, because here you are, you've put a ton of work into it, you're working your tail end off. I don't think you believe that.
I don't believe it for a second. In the larger picture, you know, things change. You know, you have heavy metal, for instance, it maybe started in the late 60s and early 70s, and it peaked out in the 80s, and then it went to grunge and all this stuff, but during that period, you had the computer age, and everything has changed, and it's evolved into something different than it was. And so those people who can't adapt that thought that, things are changing, you still have Metallica that's, selling out coliseums. They're selling out arenas. You got Iron Maiden that's traveling. And overseas, there's so much more opportunity. Russia back in the 80s and early 90s was not getting a lot of the bands. South America wasn't getting a lot of the bands. So really, that's new markets there. They're emerging and they're huge. So, collectively, and not to mention now everything is free. So you can't track it the way you could in the past.
Right.
In the past, you had to sell the record, then you get, hey, that's one record, and get $1 million, get whatever. But this, people are hearing it, they're streaming it, and they're watching it, and they're getting it for free. You can't track it the way you used to, and that's probably what has them confused. Right. But I don't think for a second it's dead.
No, I didn't think you would. No, and has technology made it easier for you to do this album?
Absolutely. Without technology, we would all have to be in the same place at the same time all the time. And granted, we do spend a lot of time together, but a lot of times I talk to Rado, I don't know, we spend an hour or two on the phone every week. Me and Nevada spend about an hour every week, and, FaceTime and all this stuff, and we're Dropboxing files back and forth, and everyone's got an idea. And so really, for one, who could afford a studio for a year and a half, at $100 an hour, literally by the time you release the CD, it'd be $1.5 million CD. You'd have to sell God knows how many copies just to recoup the investment.
Right.
So just as well as technology has taken maybe a lot of the incentive or a lot of the platinum albums and stuff like that, it has created more opportunity than there's ever been. Anybody could develop a band and try to do things they couldn't do in 1985. They right there on their phone or right there on their home computer, they could record and do things that was impossible before.
Yeah, I tell my boys all the time, you guys have technology today that makes it so much easier for you to lay a riff down and come back and change that and tinker with it, whereas before we were lucky if we could get, if you're playing at home, if you had a tape recorder that could, do a good enough job to take care of what you had done.
Right, and not to mention the professional studios were having to do the reel-to-reels, and they were cutting, splicing tape. Yeah. I can't imagine. I know some of those guys that used to do that stuff, and I can't imagine going to splicing, a track here and a track there for 40-hour week or however much they worked.
Right. Yeah, they did amazing stuff back then with reel-to-reel. Because like you said, I don't know how you would sit there, time after time and splice it just perfect. Because
right.
That takes some real talent to do that. So
right.
So with this album, will you be touring in support of it at some point?
Yeah, Chris Bear Wilburn, he is, he's the old Texas Hippie Coalition tour manager, and he is the Mr. Scary manager as well. Him and I talked early on before the first song was even written. We kind of designed, in fact, the funny part, me and Chris started Haunted back a decade ago. And so he went his direction, and he did tour management for Hell Yeah and, God knows a lot of other bands, and I stuck with the group. And so we're really not, we're really just kind of getting back to the original thought.
Okay.
Of it. So yeah, the idea is to take it on tour. And for me personally, I'm ready to go on tour for the rest of my life, which will be a long time, of course, but I'm everything in my life is buttoned down. It's good to go. And so put me on a tour bus, and I want to visit every city I can all over the world.
Fantastic. I can't wait, man. I'm looking forward to that. And hopefully Oklahoma City is a stop on your list.
Well, Nevada lives there, so just about everything, which I guess he's the home seat for the record label that we're doing. So I guess the record label will be based in Oklahoma City. So
okay.
So I'll be there as often as needed.
Now, will you be able to have that cast support you on tour? Is that something
Yeah, so that's a very tricky question. When you got, Shaman's Harvest, they're a big touring group. They've toured with Ozzy and Five Finger. They toured with all the big bands this year.
Right.
And then Texas Hippie did the same. So when you have people from all powerful bands, it's a huge scheduling thing, and
right.
things can change on a dime. So that's something that once the CD releases that we will look at closely to see if it's feasible. It may be periods where we have, because really a band just needs 2 or 3 guitar players at the most. We actually have 4. So for instance, if Shaman's Harvest was on tour, we would still, and Derek had to go with them for a month or so, we could still tour efficiently because we'd still have the other guitar players.
Okay.
Right. And so, it's just going to be really good scheduling, and and I know everyone wants to get out and see everybody. So
yeah. Well,
it depends on what Anti Mortem does. Anti Mortem, they're really big in the past, and they're excellent. And I know Nevada and Rado, that's their baby. So, they may go do their thing, and we may do something very different that Mr. Scary. But either way, the show will not suffer. It will be amazing.
Maybe a tour together.
Absolutely. We talked about early on us being there for the night to do the show, but there's just so much CD time left that we got to do, so much production stuff we got to do. It really wasn't the right time. We need to focus on getting the CD done.
Yeah. Well, Steve, I greatly appreciate your time. I'm looking so much forward to this album coming out and getting the chance to meet you. Hopefully everything works out for February 9th. And,
I would love that.
Man, I greatly appreciate your time, and best of luck to you on everything you got coming up, and hope to hear from you again sometime.
Thanks so much, man. You take care and rock on.
Thanks, Steve. Good night.
Okay. Good night.